Chosen one, before you let another distraction pull you away, stay here for a moment. Lower the noise around you. Let your mind stop racing ahead to the next task, the next message, the next problem that has been demanding an answer. This did not reach you in an empty moment. It reached you while something inside you was becoming tired of carrying a season that no longer matches who you are becoming. And that is why you needed to hear this before the new moon window closes. There are moments when God allows a message to arrive at the exact edge of a spiritual season, because the edge is where a decision has to be made. You can keep carrying the old weight into the new beginning, or you can finally put it down and receive what has been trying to reach you. Tonight the choice is closer than it has ever been. The new moon is almost finished, but the work connected to it is not disappearing. The final hours are not a countdown to a missed blessing. They are a threshold. They are the quiet point between what has been hidden and what is about to take form. God does some of his deepest work where there is no visible light, where you cannot measure progress, where every sign seems too small to trust. That is why this season has felt so confusing. You expected movement to look like open doors, clear answers, sudden confirmation, and undeniable progress. Instead, much of the movement happened beneath the surface. Something was being removed from your path. Something was being rearranged in a place you could not see. A conversation you know nothing about was changing. A delay was protecting you from arriving too early. A person who would have entered your life in the wrong condition was being prepared at a distance. The silence did not mean nothing was happening. It meant the work was too deep to be displayed before it was secure. God is about to deliver it all, but you need to understand what all means in this season. It is not the return of every person you lost. It is not the revival of every plan you once wanted. It is not God handing back every version of life you imagined before you learned what that life would have cost you. The delivery is greater than the old picture because it includes what you asked for and what you did not yet know to ask for. It includes the answer, but it also includes the discernment to recognize the answer. It includes the opportunity, but also the courage to walk through it. It includes provision, but also the wisdom not to waste it. It includes love, but not the kind that leaves you questioning your value. It includes peace that does not depend on someone else finally behaving correctly. God is not simply delivering objects into your hands. He is delivering you into a life that can hold what he is sending. You have spent too long believing that the delay was proof that you were forgotten. You watched other people move ahead while your own situation seemed to repeat itself. You tried to remain grateful, but there were days when gratitude felt like pretending. You kept showing up, kept encouraging people, kept handling responsibilities, and kept speaking hope while privately wondering whether your own answer had been misplaced. God saw the difference between the words you spoke publicly and the questions you carried alone. He saw how often you chose not to become bitter. He saw every time you could have returned to what was familiar simply because waiting had become painful. He saw the moments when you almost forced a door, almost sent the message, almost accepted less than what you knew was right, and then pulled yourself back because something in your spirit said, "Do not trade tomorrow for relief tonight." That restraint mattered. It was not weakness, it was preparation. The closing of this new moon is important because it marks the end of a private agreement you made with disappointment. You may not remember making it, but somewhere along the way you began to expect less in order to hurt less. You told yourself you were being realistic. You stopped speaking about certain dreams because hearing them out loud made the distance feel larger. You became careful with hope. Even when something good appeared, part of you waited for the reversal. That pattern protected you for a while, but now it is blocking the receiving space. God cannot place a new level of peace into hands that are gripping an old prediction. He cannot show you a different future while you are rehearsing the ending that wounded you before. This is the night to release the belief that everything good must eventually disappear. You are not being asked to become careless or naive. You are being asked to stop treating the past as a prophecy. What happened taught you, but it does not get to name what happens next. The person who betrayed you revealed their character. They did not define your worth. The opportunity that collapsed revealed a weak foundation. It did not prove that you are incapable of success. The season of financial pressure showed you where fear was controlling your decisions. It did not sentence you to permanent lack. The long silence taught you how deeply you depended on external confirmation. It did not mean heaven had turned away. God has been separating the lesson from the identity. You were supposed to carry the wisdom forward, not the wound. That is part of what is being delivered now, a clean understanding of what the last season was actually for. You thought it was only about endurance. It was also about accuracy. God was teaching you to recognize the difference between attention and love, speed and alignment, opportunity and distraction, chemistry and peace, urgency and obedience. Before this season, you may have called something a blessing simply because it arrived quickly. You may have called someone important because they made you feel intensely. You may have interpreted constant motion as progress. Now you know better. You can feel when something asks you to abandon yourself in order to keep it. You can sense when an open door is only open because it leads away from your assignment. You have learned that peace can be quiet without being empty. That discernment is not a small reward. It is what will keep the next blessing from becoming another lesson. The new moon always speaks through darkness before form. A seed does not look successful when it is buried. It looks gone. It looks covered. It looks separated from the light. Yet the hidden place is where the shell begins to break and the life inside begins to move. That has been your story. Something in you had to break open where no one could applaud it. The version of you that survived by over-explaining, chasing, proving, and controlling could not enter the next chapter unchanged. God did not bury you to erase you. He placed you in a hidden place long enough for what was false to split away from what was real. Now the first evidence is beginning to rise. You may feel that evidence as a strange calm before you see anything change outside you. Do not dismiss it. Peace is often the first package that arrives. The situation may still look the same, but it no longer owns your nervous system. The person may still be silent, but you are no longer checking the silence every hour for meaning. The financial number may not have changed yet, but fear is no longer making every decision for you. The door may still be closed, but you have stopped standing in front of it begging it to become your future. That internal release is not a consolation prize. It is the sign that your identity has moved ahead of your circumstances. Once your inner world stops agreeing with the old season, the outer world begins losing its power to keep you there. This is why the final hours matter, not because God becomes unwilling to bless you when the moon changes, but because spiritual transitions ask for participation. There is a posture that belongs to endings and a posture that belongs to beginnings. You cannot face the new while constantly turning around to see whether the old has changed its mind. You cannot receive a fresh instruction while demanding that God explain every detail of the delay. You cannot walk freely while keeping emotional access open to everything that exhausted you. Before this window closes, decide what no longer gets to follow you. There is a name that comes to mind when you hear that. There is a situation you keep reopening in thought even though it has given you no new truth. There is a fear you revisit because it makes you feel prepared even though it only leaves you drained. There is a future argument you keep practicing, a conversation you keep imagining, a result you keep trying to control before it exists. Bring that one thing into the light now. Do not build a long list. Do not turn this into another impossible project of fixing everything about yourself in one night. God is pointing to the heaviest piece because releasing one true weight can change the way you carry everything else. Say within yourself, "This cannot come with me." Let the sentence be final. Some of you are carrying a relationship that has ended in reality but not in your spirit. You are not necessarily waiting for the person to return. You may be waiting for them to understand what they did. You may want them to see your value after failing to honor it. You may imagine the day they realize what they lost because part of you believes their regret would restore what their rejection damaged. But your healing cannot depend on someone else becoming conscious. God is not sending you backward for validation. He is moving you toward a love where your value is not discovered through loss. The delivery in your relational life may begin with the end of your need to be chosen by the person who kept making you question whether you were enough. That ending can feel less dramatic than reunion, but it is far more powerful. Once you stop needing the wrong person to confirm your worth, You become available to recognize the right person without comparing them to an old wound. You no longer mistake inconsistency for mystery. You stop romanticizing distance. You stop calling anxiety a connection. You notice the person who brings clarity instead of confusion, steadiness instead of emotional extremes, honesty instead of strategic silence. God is not preparing another relationship that requires you to shrink so it can survive. He is preparing a connection that can meet the healed version of you, and the healed version of you will not be impressed by what once kept you trapped. For others, the delivery is connected to work, money, and the pressure of not knowing how the next part will be funded. You have been doing mental calculations late at night. You have been looking at responsibilities and wondering how long you can keep stretching what you have. You may have asked God for a financial miracle, but the answer is not always a sudden amount appearing without a pathway. Sometimes the miracle begins as an idea you finally take seriously. Sometimes it is a person remembering your name in the right room. Sometimes it is the courage to leave a position that is consuming your gift without increasing your future. Sometimes provision arrives through the discipline to stop leaking money into places that soothe you temporarily but weaken you later. God can open the channel, but He will also show you how to keep what enters it. Pay attention to the ordinary movement around you after this new moon ends. A message that seems casual may carry an introduction. A small request may reveal a larger opportunity. A skill you have treated as common may be valuable to someone who does not know how to do what comes naturally to you. An old idea may return, but this time with timing, structure, and clarity it did not have before. Do not reject small beginnings because they do not resemble the complete delivery. God often sends the first piece in a form that requires stewardship. The seed does not insult the harvest, it contains it. You may also discover that the provision is connected to a door closing. Something that has been draining time without producing fruit may become impossible to continue. At first, that can feel like loss. Yet God sometimes delivers through subtraction because there are obligations that consume the space where the new assignment needs to grow. The ending of a contract, the change in a schedule, the fading of a connection, the sudden inability to tolerate what you once endured, these can all be forms of rescue. Do not call every removal an attack. Ask what room it creates. The delivery also includes clarity about who you are now. This matters because many chosen ones keep asking for a new life while introducing themselves through an old season. You speak about yourself as the one who was abandoned, overlooked, delayed, used, underestimated, or exhausted. Those things happened, but they are not your name. God is restoring your internal language. You are becoming someone who does not need chaos to feel alive. Someone who can make a decision without collecting approval from every voice. Someone who can be kind without becoming available for misuse. Someone who can love deeply without negotiating away their boundaries. Someone who can receive without feeling guilty for having needs. The next chapter requires that version of you to be present. There is a reason the old identity has been fighting so hard in these final hours. Familiar pain offers a strange sense of control. You know how to survive it. You know what to expect from it. A real blessing creates uncertainty because it asks you to live beyond your rehearsed defenses. You may say you want peace, then become uncomfortable when nothing is wrong. You may say you want healthy love, then mistrust someone who communicates clearly because your body learned to associate longing with connection. You may say you want abundance, then feel fear when an opportunity asks you to be visible. God is not only sending the blessing, He is teaching your system not to reject it. Still, you need discernment. Not every intense feeling is instruction. Not every dream is a command. Not every coincidence is a promise. God does not lead you into confusion and call it faith. The message of this new moon is not to chase signs. It is to become still enough that you no longer need 1,000 signs to obey the truth you already have. When direction is from God, it becomes clearer as you bring it into honest prayer, wise action, and patient observation. It does not require you to destroy your stability in one emotional night. The next move may be bold, but it will not ask you to abandon wisdom. Before the new moon ends, make one clean decision, not 10 declarations that disappear by morning. One decision you can live tomorrow. It may be refusing to contact the person who only responds when they feel you pulling away. It may be applying for the role, sending the proposal, organizing the plan, or asking the question you have delayed because the answer might change your life. It may be canceling a commitment made from guilt. It may be setting aside a small amount of money as an act of new stewardship. It may be turning off the noise early enough to hear yourself think. The spiritual shift becomes real when it enters behavior. The enemy would prefer you to feel inspired without becoming different. Inspiration can be intense and still leave every pattern untouched. You can listen to a message about a new beginning and then spend the rest of the night returning to the same emotional doorway. You can declare that God is delivering something new while secretly monitoring what He told you to release. This is where the final test appears. The old pattern may make one last attempt to regain your attention. A memory may become unusually vivid. Someone may reach out with just enough energy to reopen confusion. Fear may tell you that releasing control will cause everything to fall apart. Recognize the timing. Not every return is restoration. Sometimes it is a final confirmation that you have outgrown what once controlled you. Do not be afraid if grief rises when you close the door. Releasing something does not mean it never mattered. It means its meaning has changed. You can honor what a season taught you without continuing to live inside it. You can forgive without reopening access. You can appreciate who you were while admitting that version of you cannot lead anymore. The new moon ending is not asking you to erase the past. It is asking you to stop consulting it for permission. There is another reason this message had to find you now. You are closer to visible evidence than your emotions have allowed you to believe. The last stretch of waiting often feels the longest because the old sources of motivation no longer work, but the new reality has not yet appeared. You cannot go back, yet you do not feel fully arrived. This in-between space can make you question everything. You may wonder whether you misunderstood God, whether the discipline was worth it, whether the boundaries cost too much, whether the quiet work changed anything. This is where many people abandon the process, not because the promise failed, but because they expected the transition to feel more certain. The bridge does not feel like either side. It has its own weather. It can feel exposed, unfinished, and strangely lonely, but the bridge is not your permanent address. You are crossing. The fact that you no longer fit where you were is evidence of movement, even before you can see where you are going. God has not brought you this far to leave you suspended. The next steps are being revealed at the pace that protects both your peace and your future. What is coming may arrive in layers. First, you will understand why something could not happen earlier. Then you will see what the delay prevented. After that, you will recognize the door that could only open once you stopped pushing the wrong one. The answer will not merely satisfy you, it will reorganize the story. You will look back and realize that the silence was not empty, the rejection was not final, and the detour was not wasted. The same season you thought was stealing time was teaching you how to stop giving time to what could never carry your destiny. The enemy will try to make you judge the delivery by size. You may expect all to arrive as one overwhelming event, and because the first sign is small, you may overlook it. But heaven is not measuring significance the way fear does. One honest conversation can end years of confusion. One clear decision can save months of delay. One introduction can redirect an entire career. One boundary can stop a generational pattern. One peaceful night can prove that a tormenting season has lost its power. Do not call the beginning small simply because it can fit inside an ordinary day. Watch the change in your reactions. That may be where you notice it first. Something that once provoked you will no longer have the same access. A comment that would have ruined your day will pass without becoming your identity. You will feel less urgency to defend yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. You will notice that your energy returns faster after disappointment. These are signs of authority. God is not making you emotionless. He is making you less governable by what was designed to distract you. There may be a brief period after the new moon ends when nothing seems to happen. Do not interpret that pause as cancellation. Seeds do not break the surface the instant the soil is watered. The unseen movement continues. Your responsibility is not to dig up the seed to check whether it is working. Your responsibility is to protect the ground. Guard what enters your mind. Refuse conversations that return you to hopelessness. Do not let one difficult morning rewrite what you understood in a clear moment. Consistency will carry you farther than emotional intensity. This is especially important when the old fear returns in a familiar voice. It may say you waited too long, missed your moment, chose the wrong path, or expected too much. It may point to your age, your past, your bank account, your relationship history, or the length of the delay. But fear only knows the evidence it has already seen. It cannot calculate what God is arranging outside your view. It cannot account for a door opening through someone you have not met, a solution arriving through a method you have not considered, or strength appearing in you that did not exist 6 months ago. Fear predicts by repetition. God creates beyond repetition. You are not late, you are arriving with discernment. You are not empty-handed, you are carrying wisdom that cannot be purchased without experience. You are not starting from nothing, you are starting from truth. The next chapter may not look like the version you once described, but it will fit the person you have become far better than the old dream ever could. Think about what has changed in you during this cycle. You are less willing to beg for clarity, less impressed by words without pattern, less interested in proving that you can endure what is unhealthy. You are beginning to understand that loyalty to God sometimes looks like leaving what you begged Him to fix. You have learned that being chosen does not mean being exempt from endings. It means the endings will eventually serve alignment. The new moon is closing, and with it closes the season in which confusion had the final word. You may still have unanswered questions, but they no longer need to control your next step. You may still feel tenderness around what happened, but tenderness is not the same as captivity. You may still remember, but memory is no longer a command. This is the difference between being healed and being untouched. Healing does not erase the story. It changes who has authority over it. Now, before this moment passes, picture the burden you have carried as something you are setting down at a doorway. You do not need to fight it, justify it, or explain it. You only need to stop picking it back up. The doorway is not asking whether you are perfectly ready. It is asking whether you are willing. Readiness often comes after movement. Courage often appears once the first step is taken. You do not have to feel fearless to leave. You only have to stop calling fear your guide. Say this quietly with meaning. I release the version of the future built from my past. I receive the wisdom, but I refuse the prediction. I make room for what God is bringing now. Do not rush through those words. Let them reach the place in you that has been preparing for disappointment. Let the old expectation hear that it is no longer in charge. Then name what you are ready to receive, but name it by its quality, not only by its form. Instead of demanding a specific person, receive mutual love, honesty, safety, and commitment. Instead of demanding one exact job, receive meaningful work, fair reward, growth, and the right environment. Instead of demanding that life return to the way it was, receive restoration that makes you stronger than before. This leaves room for God to exceed the picture without violating the prayer. Chosen one, this message found you because something in you is ready to stop living as though the worst moment was the truest one. It was real, but it was not final. The betrayal was real. The financial pressure was real. The loneliness was real. The exhaustion was real. Yet none of those things have the authority to write the last line. God has been working beyond the point where your understanding ended. The final hours of this new moon are not asking you to manufacture a miracle. They are asking you to agree with the movement already taking place. Agreement looks like releasing what God has been removing, honoring what He has been teaching, and taking the next step without demanding the entire map. The miracle is not dependent on your perfect mood. You do not have to feel powerful tonight. You only have to be honest enough to stop carrying what you know is over. Tomorrow, the world may look ordinary. Your responsibilities may still be waiting. The phone will still ring. The same people may still behave the same way. Do not assume that ordinary surroundings mean the spiritual shift did not happen. The first proof may be how you meet the ordinary. You will answer differently. You will pause where you used to react. You will recognize what deserves your energy and what does not. You will stop turning every delay into a verdict. Then the external evidence will begin to match what changed inside. The right information will reach you. A blocked process will move. Someone will reveal their intention. A resource will become available. An idea will gain structure. The timing will start making sense. Not every part will arrive at once, but enough will move for you to know the season has changed. When it does, remember this moment. Remember that the shift began before the proof. Remember that you released the old prediction before the new reality could fully be seen. That memory will protect you when the next process requires faith. You will know that silence is not always absence, darkness is not always danger, and delay is not always denial. Sometimes the hidden place is where God prevents the blessing from being born too early. There is one final truth you need before the new moon ends. You do not have to chase what God is delivering. You may need to act, prepare, speak, apply, move, or decide, but you will not have to betray yourself to keep what belongs to you. What is aligned will not require permanent confusion. It may challenge you, stretch you, and ask for courage, but it will not feed on your self-abandonment. Peace will be present even when the path is demanding, so release the need to force the timeline. Release the belief that everyone else is ahead. Release the shame of not having arrived sooner. Your path was building capacity, and capacity is what keeps a blessing from collapsing under its own weight. You are not only receiving what you prayed for, you are becoming able to sustain it. The new moon is ending. The hidden work is moving toward visible form. The door behind you is closing, not to punish you, but to stop you from returning to a life that can no longer hold your growth. The door ahead is opening in stages, giving your eyes time to adjust. You do not need every answer tonight. You need the willingness to walk when the next step appears. God has not forgotten the promise that kept returning to your heart. He has not ignored the nights you asked for direction. He has not wasted the discipline, the restraint, the tears, or the private choices no one applauded. The delivery carries the answer, the protection, the timing, the wisdom, and the version of you capable of receiving it. That is why it took longer than you expected. God was not preparing one event. He was preparing an entire alignment. Before you leave this message, make the decision clear. You are not carrying the old fear into the new cycle. You are not reopening what God closed just because the silence feels unfamiliar. You are not reducing the future to what the past has already shown you. You will take the next honest step. You will let peace become evidence. You will recognize the beginning even when it arrives quietly. What is for you is moving. What was delayed is being placed correctly. What was hidden is gaining form. What was taken is being restored in a way that does not return you to the person you had to become to survive the loss. And what God is delivering will not simply make you happy for a moment. It will confirm why the old season could not continue. Chosen one, you made it to the edge of the new moon with more strength than you realize and more clarity than you had when this cycle began. You are not leaving empty. You are leaving lighter, sharper, and ready. The next chapter does not need the perfect version of you. It needs the honest version who finally believes that peace can stay, love can be mutual, provision can grow, and life can change without first destroying you. Let this be the last night you call yourself forgotten. Let this be the last time you interpret hidden work as no work. Let this be the final hour you give the past authority over a future it has never seen. God is about to deliver what this season prepared, and when the first evidence appears, you will understand why this message had to reach you before the new moon ended. Write, "I receive the new beginning" in the comments as your declaration that the old season no longer has your agreement. Subscribe and stay close, because the next message will help you recognize the first signs of what is already moving toward you. Do not go backward now. The door is opening, and this time you are ready to walk through it.